just this whole thing with the kneeling on the neck thing. Really,
Yeah.
it's just it's devastating. It's hurtful. It's made me sad. I've teared. I've cried.
Right.
Because my best friend is Gary. You know Gary Ebron.
Yeah.
He's a big black man. 6'4".
Right.
280 pounds.
Right.
He dark skinned.
Mm-hmm.
He could be that Floyd.
Right. But
that's my dearest friend.
Exactly. And you love him. You know him.
And to have that fear for him is what makes me speak out. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm light skinned. If I didn't have the Puerto Rican flags on me all the time and say, hey, Papi, and all that, you would think I was a straight up white guy.
Right.
You know? And I have that privilege to see a lot of different caveats on race because I'm in law enforcement. I'm Puerto Rican. And my best friends in my community were black. I lived in your neighborhood where we grew up. We grew up with black kids, girl. Yeah. You know, like it was predominantly black with like Christine Reeves and a couple other white girls and boys, and that was it. You know, Rich Blaze. You know, like those guys. But we were predominantly black school.
Yeah.
So I got to grow up and see that. Yeah. And that also changed my perception on life and growing up. And it's basically what you see. And unfortunately, people are especially now living in the closet and they're not exposed to what's out there. And unfortunately, I think that's what's the fact that you could deny that there's a systemic problem means that you're just not exposing enough to it, and either you're not exposed to it because you have blinders on, or because you just can't see it, refuse to see it, think, or believe that we're better than that. Because I know a lot of people who believe that there's no systemic racism because we're better. Because because I don't see you as a black person.
Right.
Everybody does it.
Right.
But you know, we just got to get to a point where we could not get angry, because I loathe when people get angry at Black Lives Matter. I'm like, why would you get angry at that? It's like when I say they save the whales, kill dolphins. You know, I'm saying just save the whales because the whales need saving at that time. I'm not saying I hate other animals.
Right.
I'm not saying, you know, if I say Black Lives Matter, I'm not saying I hate white people.
Right.
I'm saying they matter also. Let's get to that point. And I just
that's
it
where
is.
It is.
That's
where it came from. It's because people weren't operating that way. It wasn't showing up in our lives that way. I mean, you know, we say we love all people, but there's a group of people who have been historically oppressed, marginalized, persecuted, and when their lives are lost, there's a very silent response where when, you know, other lives are lost, we rally and we get really upset and we get really hurt. And I even think about this woman who was killed by a Black police officer, and I don't remember where she was, but people were hurting about that. I was hurting about that because she should not, it feels similar to, in the sense that this person didn't do anything. Like, this person should be here to tell the story and to get married and to have all the things other people have. And so for me personally, it was hurtful to witness that happening. But that officer was indicted and charged, and all those things happened pursuant to her case.
And that was in Minnesota.
Right. Okay. See there, you know, I was like trying to remember where it was.
Yeah,
but
that was the NOR case, and he was in Minnesota, and he just got sentenced to 15 years.
Right.
So I'm curious to see how this is going to compare to that same state, you know, because look at Atlanta. Atlanta, we have the kid jogging.
Yeah.
Ahmaud
Arbery.
And they hunted that man down and murdered him, and it took 3 months. 3 months to get an arrest.
Wow.
Same state, black man shoots at 2 white people who were in his house.
Right.
They were in his house.
Right.
He was arrested immediately.
Right.
That black man.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's the case. This is what I say. Like, it's unfair treatment. It's unfair treatment all around. It's the media. It's the DAs. It's systemic.
It is.
The media, and I'll tell you why the media. I knew Ahmaud Arbery's name. I know his arrest record. I know that he was arrested when he was 21 years old or 22 years old. I know what he was arrested for. Why do I know all that? Because the media put it out there like that. Boom. That was the victim that was the guy murdered.
Right.
Those 2 white people in the black man's home.
Yeah.
I still have yet to know their name.
Right.
Don't know their arrest record. The only thing I know is their defense.
Right.
The media said, and this is what the media says, 3 different, I checked Fox News, CNBC, all of them said the same thing. That those white people thought they were in a house because they thought it was for sale and they saw the door open.
Wow. Wow. And the irony of Ahmaud Arbery looking in a house, like so many other people who just come in, pop in, look at a house, and the neighbors are so outraged by this man going into a house that isn't even built yet, isn't even closed off yet. Here go 2 white people walking in somebody's house that somebody's living in, right? And the reality is they're not harmed, right? They weren't murdered.
They weren't murdered.
They weren't murdered. They may have been afraid, but they weren't murdered, right? And look at the difference in those 2 cases that you highlight. And for me, my son jogs every day. And so when that happened and I could make that connection to like the innocent act of jogging every day and what that led to for Ahmaud Arbery, I mean, that hits home in a way that it's hard to explain the fear that parents have when they see stuff like that happening around them, and they know, well, my child is a similar age, a similar whatever. And so I've started to write up these stories about a lot of these young people who have lost their lives and put the positive about them in the world. I've started to kind of like create little blurbs about each person because, like you said, the media automatically talks about his rap sheet and what he did.
Immediately.
Automatically. But he was a son. His mother's like, you could see that he was a light in her world. And I'm sure there's so much good about him, that I think would maybe lessen some. Part of my theory is that if we started to humanize people, then maybe people wouldn't be so afraid. So you talked about people being afraid of Black people. And I'm like, well, what do we do so that people don't have to be so afraid? I mean, like,
that's the question, though.
It's not justifiable fear, but I'm just saying.
But it's out there. It's tangible. I see it.
Right.
I see it. I see it